We bought a Kymco AK550, and since then, I mentioned it on a channel a couple of times, and I've gotten a ton of questions about this scooter. I do have a full review on deck, but today's video is more about the specific questions I've gotten about the scooter, because that review requires Rich, who's the daily commuter on it, and he has not been available for recording when we have decent weather to do so. But you know, I analyzed the scooter before he bought it. Now that we've had it, I understand a few more of the features a little bit better, and that's what we're gonna share today. I had to wash the scooter before I took it out today, and even just kind of playing around with it that way, this is like a car, but not. Clearly, it is truly a luxury scooter. First off, I hear that this truly isn't a scooter. It's a motorcycle. It's huge. It's got a big engine. People tend to think of scooters as these 50cc small frame things, and this is certainly not it. But it's twist and go. Doesn't have the traditional Vespa looking floorboard necessarily, but it is definitely classified as a maxi scooter, which is just a classification of motorcycle. But it's also not a motorcycle. Rich has been told. At work, he gets a lot of grief for this scooter because it's a scooter. And what makes it a scooter is primarily that whole twist and go idea, but there are such a thing as a automatic motorcycle. So you know what? We don't care. You call it whatever you need to call it at the end of the day, because we love anything that is on two wheels. What does AK550 stand for? The 550 is the cubic centimeters, or cc's, of the engine size. So we're gonna leave the Captain Obvious behind here. But the AK component stands for Anniversary Kymco. I've heard a couple of different things go around, but the press release when this scooter was first announced and launched, it's Anniversary Kymco. So we call it AK when we're just chatting about the scooter amongst ourselves, and if people over here, they have a different connotation altogether. But Anniversary Kymco. Does it have traction control? It does. They call it electronic throttle control, and it automatically kicks in if you have it on raid mode. And if you find yourself in the manual looking for things like that, they call blinkers winkers, kind of like the name. So if I use it interchangeably on the channel, it is what it is. What's so special about the braking system of the scooter? It's got dual disc Brembo front and rear ABS brakes, so it's got plenty of stopping power for whatever it's going to dish out. What about the suspension? When I first got to see this scooter in real life, there was another scooter enthusiast, and he was there specifically to look at a used Kymco AK550 that the dealer had. He had back issues from a back surgery, and he was really looking for a super smooth ride. He liked his X-Max, but he was super interested in the suspension on this one in particular. The front suspension is a 41mm upside down fork on the front, but he was specifically looking at this scooter because of the rear suspension. There, it's got the horizontal trailing arm suspension, but I will tell you that it is almost car-like in how it handles things like small dips in the road or getting onto a driveway that has a nice lip on it. It is the smoothest scooter that I've ridden personally. And the gentleman did buy the AK550 and traded in his X-Max, so he was clearly happy with it. And what about the engine specs? So the Kymco AK550 is liquid cooled, but you'll find that in maxi scooters. It's got the twin cylinders, it's 550 cubic centimeters. It's got 53 horsepower at 7,500 RPMs. And just over 40 foot-pounds of torque to go with that 550cc engine. I've heard this from my husband and other AK riders. It's got a really powerful bottom end, and on the top end, you're not gonna find it quite as zippy. That said, so how fast does this thing go? It's definitely over 100 miles per hour. And Rich didn't go into details with me, but he has taken it at least 100 miles per hour, and that's as far as he would go with that conversation. So what type of gas does it use? It asks for no more than 95 octane, and we use the highest available to us at 93. It's getting about 56 miles per gallon, even when the dash says it gets somewhere in that 60 mile per gallon range. And then it does have a 3.9 gallon tank on it. And if by chance you saw my Kymco like review, accessing the gas is kind of a pet peeve. I will say it is smooth on this scooter, and it doesn't require you to open the seat to do it. What color does the Kymco AK550 come in? Well, that does change by year model, it seems. This color is the matte silver crystal on a 2022. In 2021, you could only get it in this color or a space gray, which is just essentially the shiny gray instead of the matte. But in 2022, the options open up to 4 colors. So you have this one, you have the shiny gray called the space gray, you have a deep blue, and there is a matte black. Rolling up to a dealership and seeing an AK just sitting there, I feel like that's kind of rare from the conversations that I've had and in our personal experience with trying to buy one. So if you want to get on a waiting list and be patient and all that jazz, then definitely you can put it in order for a specific color. So how big is this scooter? Well, the length of it is just over 85 inches and the wheelbase is just over 62 inches. And the height from the ground to the handlebars is 55 inches, but the seat is a hair under 31 inches. I've got it on the center stand right now, and I'm just a hair under 5'6". And I will say that when my feet are planted at a stoplight or what have you, I feel closer to the ground than I do on my Vespa GTS. And if you're curious, the tires are 15 inches on the front and the rear. And this thing is 463 pounds dry. And I did get a question specifically around how easy it is to maneuver around the garage. I am comfortable moving it around on flat ground, but if I'm outside of the garage and on the driveway, forget it. I have to turn it on to move it. And with the weight of it, I just find it easier to be off of it to move it wherever I need to go. It's like if I'm backing it up or kind of moving it around the garage, it's easier to be off of it and move it. So definitely not as easy as moving the Buddy Kick around, but I am able to move this one solo. What is Nodo? I'm not even sure if it's called Nodo. We're gonna call it Nodo. At a high level, the middle section of this dashboard is what they're called the Nodo. The rest of it are traditional dashboard functions, but the Nodo component of it, you pair that to your phone for functions like different displays. I've seen Batman, Darth Vader, and even our family pet on his dashboard here. You can get alerts from your phone when you're stopped at a stoplight. There's navigation, and there's things like Find My Scooter in case you happen to lose your scooter in a parking lot. So let me know in the comments if you want to see something specifically about the Nodo functions. We were kind of skeptical of that when we were looking at the Kymco AK550. It did add $600 to the price of the scooter, and we decided it wasn't worth it at the time, but I do know that Rich does enjoy using it more than he thought he would now that he's been using it. So what are the other features? Well, it's got the keyless remote, and it does come with 2 key fobs that have a non-rechargeable battery on the inside, just like modern cars, that you do not want to lose, just like modern cars too. And it does activate when you're within about 2 feet radius around this whole dash situation. Kymco says it's got the lowest center of gravity of any scooter in its class. Yeah, it does. It's got a very low center of gravity. I felt completely stable on this scooter, even as a nervous new rider. It also has an adjustable windshield, and it actually required quite a bit to do the adjustment. It was not just a slide up and down situation. These different components required 4 bolts or somehow to take it off. It's been a couple months since we did this, and it only has 2 positions. So it's either here or it's about 1.5 inches lower than what it is currently, but it was enough of a movement to make the ride more comfortable. It's adjustable, but it's not super flexible, if that makes sense. Storage size. A full face helmet does fit in the undersized storage box. You know I love that. Full face helmet will fit, and I bet if you had like a 3/4 to go along with somebody riding on the back with you, but I don't have one, but it does fully fit in there with room to spare. So you can fit up to 22 pounds on the inside of that seat, and then there are 2 storage compartments up here as well that generally right this time of year are filled up with the cords for the heated gear that Rich wears when it's cold. It does have heated hand grips with multiple heat settings, and Rich was super excited about that. But ultimately, as weather, even in Texas weather, got colder, he upgraded to heated gear instead. They just don't quite cut it with traditional gloves and the heated grips. It's got dual power modes that they advertise, but really it's a full power normal mode. And then if you turn on rain mode, that's when you get that electronic throttle control and what have you, to give it a softer throttle response is what they call it. And on this channel, you know, I'm all about good warranties, and the AK550 does have Kymco's 24-month standard warranty, and so far we haven't needed it yet. It's got a rider backrest, and then it's got other features that feel more like a modern car than what I see on scooters traditionally. So it's got things like the tire pressure gauge and digital instrumentation beyond the speedometer and the engine temperature and battery voltage. How often do you have to have it serviced? It's pretty standard compared to other scooters that we've had. So at about 600 miles, you get that first servicing, which we did have done at the dealer. And then beyond that, you're doing something at every 3,000 miles. And when it's time for an oil change, every other oil change, you change the filter. The other times you just clean out the screen. And then you're gonna need a new belt replaced at 12,000 miles for sure. So those are the big ones covered. But subscribe, we're gonna be posting the maintenance videos as we reach those thresholds. How much is the AK550? Unlike some brands, Kymco keeps it on the site. Very straightforward, doesn't even require an email address, so you'll definitely want to check. But the 2021 at this moment is $93.99 MSRP, and then $98.99 for a 2022. We got on the list in September, and by October the price had already changed on the AK550, so there's a lot of volatility in what pricing looks like. So you'll definitely want to confirm before you get your hopes up. But I don't see it being below these numbers And I'll put a link to a video where I talk about different surprise costs you might see whenever you go to buy a scooter, because that's changing a lot too. I have also seen some late 2021 video of Kymco showing off an electronic adjustable thing here, cruise control in a gold matte color, and currently that's not available here in the United States as at the time this video is made, but be on the lookout. I feel like maybe future model year will have that kind of technology on it, or maybe it will be offered in Asia or Europe first. So these are just the details of the compilation of questions that I've gotten so far, and a review is coming, so you'll definitely want to subscribe and get notified whenever that comes. But in the meantime, be seen and be safe, scooter friend.